Are you looking to run a faster park run? Well, here's a great session to help you on your way.
Hello and welcome back to the final episode of the Faster 5K series. So today's episode is centered around something I like to call float recoveries on the running. So I'll go into a bit more detail on what that means and what type of session I'll be doing today. So what do I mean by a float recovery and how is it different from different types of recoveries I've been using in my sessions? So a float recovery is essentially you want to keep some pace still in there, but you want to back off putting that real effort in. So it's something that you might be doing a 3-minute repetition, and then for today's purposes I'm going to be having around about 2 minutes at float pace. So it's going to be a little bit slower than my marathon pace, still keep a steady pace, so it's not quite as slow as a jog, but you want to be keeping some form of steady running in there. So there are 4 main types of recovery that you can have. So the first one is what I'm doing now, and from the lowest end is the static recovery. So just finish my warm-up, I'm stopping, I'm having some rest. So this is one you probably use in between your intervals where you want to fully recover as fast as you can to then go on to the next interval. The second type of recovery you can have is a slow walk recovery. So you're still sort of using your legs a little bit, you're still using your heart a little bit, but it's a lot slower than say if you were jogging or carrying on running. So you're getting a little bit of recovery element from the walk there. You can then go into a little bit of a jog recovery. So that's just something, a light jog. It's probably a little bit slower than your easy run pace, although when you're just coming off a rep, you're probably still going to be running the pace of your rep for the first sort of 5 or 10 seconds of that, and then you'll slow down into what is a natural jog recovery. And then the fourth one, what we'll be doing today, is that float recovery. So you've just come off the back of a rep and you're still continuing a little bit of a pace on from there, but not putting any effort really into it. So you're just floating into the next interval there. So today's session is going to be an 8 by 3 minutes with 2 minutes of that float recovery. So going into sort of what I do in a typical interval session, but what I'll be doing is going slightly slower on those 8 by 3 minutes. So where I'll probably be looking to go under 6-minute mile pace is sort of my 10k pace I think at the moment. I'll be taking a little bit off this and maybe going at sort of half marathon pace, or what I think is a good effort for 10k at the moment there. So I'll be taking a little bit off the reps, but then I'll be running the recoveries a little bit faster. So it is one that is perfect for putting in say your half marathon and marathon training as well, where you want to keep that endurance element in whilst you're still doing the reps. Again, it's a good one to use in winter as well, so you don't want to be standing around and getting cold in between reps. Often it's good to take a little bit off the pace and just keep on running, keep that heart rate up and keep your core body temperature warm when it's sort of freezing conditions in the winter. So it's a bit of theory behind it. Let's go and get the session done. So just finished that first rep now. Just going to continue on sort of the pressure in my legs, but just take the foot off the gas slightly. So I'm just sort of coasting through on this section. So I've really noticed the difference at my running. I was about 6:55 on that rep of the float recovery, but I've recovered over 2 minutes and I'm ready to go on my next rep. Coming up to the end of that float recovery on the 3rd rep now, so I'm nearly halfway there. Now I'm going to get this 4th one done, get back on that tempo pace. great thing about this session is that you can train yourself to run slightly quicker and slightly slower than like your red line, which is your sort of threshold. So there'll become a point where you carry on running at that pace and you'll fatigue quicker than you can recover from. So this just gives us the opportunity to run slightly faster for 3 minutes and then recover slower than that threshold pace.
Here are a few thoughts on how you can use that float recoveries as a session to help your 5k parkrun time. So the first thing is that it helps work your speed endurance, and that endurance element too. So you're constantly having to use your aerobic system, which is the system you use for longer distance running, so it'll keep you refreshed and your legs fresh at the end of your 5k, and make sure that you've got that endurance element in it, but you can finish the 5k strong. It will also allow you to work on those speeds that are slightly quicker than your 5k effort. So probably not so much on the side that, as if you're comparing it to maximal running, where you're doing sort of 60 seconds, 2 minute, 3 minute reps flat out and having a lot of rest. But what it will do is allow you to work slightly quicker than your 5k, 10k pace, and then recover slightly on the reps. So your recovery will still be a bit of a hard effort as you're not getting a complete rest, and it will give you that training stimulus to make sure that you finish strong on those 5ks and 10ks. So just a few thoughts on how I thought that session went personally. So looking back, I probably did set off slightly too quick relatively to what my fitness level was at the time. I was still thinking of being able to hit the times that I was, say, 2 or 3 weeks ago, but with not doing a lot of running before that session, I may have dropped off slightly on a fitness point of view there. So I would have set off a little bit slower, as I did struggle towards the last sort of 3 or 4 reps of those. My paces were dropping, even so the float recoveries were dropping too. So to do that session again, just set off slightly slower and ease into it. Make sure you can bank a good first rep and then keep doing it for the 8 reps per session. You can also tailor that session relative to your fitness level. So in terms of how long you're doing the durations for, so you can play around with that. You can have maybe some longer float recoveries. You can have maybe 2 minute intervals. You could drop that down to do either 6 or 4 repetitions if you're not used to running as far and as fast, or if you're used to running a bit further and a bit quicker, you can maybe do 10 or 12 repetitions of 3 minutes. It's entirely up to you how you tailor this around your current fitness level and what you're training for. Last of all, a big thank you for watching all of this how to run a faster parkrun or 5k training series. So what I will be doing is I'll be looking to do this series, but do it in person and do some in-person coaching local to where I live on the washlands, where I've been doing most of these sessions. So I'm aiming, I've not finalised the plans yet, but to do every Thursday in July, and I'll be hitting 4 weeks of that, and 4 of these sessions obviously won't be the long run. To do an hour session, completely free session, just to turn up and maybe get you into doing some structured sessions, a structured warm-up, and asking questions on how these will work and fit into your own training, or even just want to come along and train in a group. It will be good to see a lot of people there. Looking forward to putting those sessions on and hopefully see some of you there if you're local.